That was the origin of you guys having issues with each other, right? Was that he was claiming it?
Yeah. Look, well, I don't even really like to talk about this shit though with me and Quanny though, cause like it's just a lot of little nut shit though. But like my entourage and his entourage, you know what I'm saying?
Street shit, yeah.
But at the beginning, me and Quanny was cool, but like Quanny alright though, bro. But Quanny not. Quanny just a bro.
Really?
Yeah, Quanny a
Y'all just heard that. Skrilla, on camera, no filter, admitting he got hit in Chicago and in the same breath, talking about his beef with OT7 Quanny. That ain't a podcast moment. That is a man telling you to your face that his life is on the line and the beef is real. Two of Philly's most dangerous voices in drill music right now are locked in a war that has already seen bodies drop, diss tracks launched, fake peace attempts exposed, and one of their closest mutual allies get gunned down in the streets. This ain't an internet beef. This ain't social media back and forth for clout. This is Kensington versus North Philly. Two drill artists who used to be in each other's corners now throwing shots on wax and off it in one of the most chaotic rap conflicts Philadelphia has seen in a generation. People on the outside been sleeping on this situation. Y'all were focused on whatever mainstream beef was trending. Meanwhile, Philly been cooking something that makes most of those look like a playground argument. We're talking about a beef that connects to shootings, to the murder of YBC Dull, one of Philly's most electric young rappers.
And right now, a 16-year-old boy is charged with the murder of a Philadelphia rapper. That shooting happened last month in Olney. The 25-year-old rapper Abdul Vix, also known as YBC Duel, was killed. District Attorney Larry Krasner announcing those charges today.
He also says the teen suspect is connected to several other shootings.
To fake squash attempts, to Skrilla getting shot out of state, to Chucky exposing Quanny on the internet, to the whole ecosystem of Philly drill fracturing right down the middle. Every layer you peel back on this thing gets darker. Fam, this situation has been building for years and it ain't done yet. So sit down. I'm breaking down everything. Who these two men are, where they came from, how they linked up, how it all went sideways, who's been moving grimy, and why the streets of Philadelphia are saying this beef is far from over. No cap, by the time I'm done with this, y'all gonna understand exactly why this is one of the most consequential beefs in underground rap right now. To understand how we got here, you gotta know who Skrilla and OT7 Quanny actually are, not the internet version, the real version. Let's start with Skrilla. His government is Jamil Edwards, born June 3, 1999, raised in Kensington, Philadelphia. And if you know anything about American geography, you know Kensington is not just a neighborhood. Kensington is the most well-documented open-air drug market on the entire East Coast. You've seen the videos, you've seen the documentaries, the tent cities, the zombified figures hunched over on sidewalks, the syringes, the chaos. That is where Skrilla grew up. That is his block. That is his entire identity. He didn't just live there and rap about it from a distance. Skrilla was in the mix from jump. By age 12, he was already out there moving product. He caught charges, he got put on house arrest for 2.5 years while he was still in high school. Fam, high school. While most kids were worrying about prom and college applications, this man was restricted to his block by an ankle monitor. And he didn't waste that time feeling sorry for himself. He picked up a microphone. He's got a bone tattoo next to his eye, a symbol for dog food, that's heroin, and bones and paw prints across his knuckles. Everything about how Skrilla presents himself is a direct line back to Kensington. He's not performing a character, he is the neighborhood. By 2022, he starts putting out mixtapes, Cutthroat and Gemini Season, and the Philly underground starts paying attention. In 2023, Priority Records comes knocking. He signs, drops Underworld in 2024. Then in November 2024, Zombie Love Kensington Paradise drops. Features from Lil Baby, Rob 49, YBC Dull, and more. His music is Philly drill mixed with Detroit energy. Eerie, woozy, off-kilter flows over beats that sound like Gregorian chants and horror film scores. Pitchfork called his flow woozy and swerving. The Fader called him the hottest rapper in Philadelphia. And then his song, Doot Doot 6-7, leaks in late 2024 and takes on a life nobody could have predicted. Elementary school kids, NBA players, UK politicians, all running with a line from a man who grew up selling heroin in Kensington. That's the Skrilla story. From the most dangerous open-air drug market in America to a Priority Records deal and a viral moment that reached every corner of the globe. Now, OT7 Quanny. His government is Jaquan Borneo Lee. born June 20th, 1997, making him 2 years older than Skrilla. He's from North Philadelphia, specifically the Richard Allen Projects, which is one of the most historically significant and historically violent housing projects the city has ever produced. The OT7 in his name, he's told interviewers it stands for overtime 7 days a week. That's his ethos, outwork everybody. His rap career officially starts in 2020, gets a feature on a Lil Bucks track called Halftime, drops his first solo joint, Virgil II, in March 2021. And then in 2022, everything changes when Dior goes viral and puts him squarely on the map of Philly drill. He follows it with Dog Talk, New Money, building a catalog that speaks directly to North Philly street life. By 2024, he drops Leaks Volume 1 and the EP The Biggest, and he's pulling close to 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Here's the key thing about these two men. Before the beef, they were in the same lane. Not just the same city, not just the same genre, the same lane. Philly drill, dark, eerie, based in real street experience. Both of them moving through the city, moving through the same spaces, both climbing in a scene where they were arguably the two most prominent names. There were collabs happening. There were unreleased records with both of their names on them circulating online. These weren't strangers to each other, and that, fam, is exactly why the beef hits different. When two people who were once aligned go to war, the damage is never just between two individuals. It radiates outward. It touches everybody around them. And in a city like Philadelphia, where the streets and the music are not separate things, they are the same thing. A rap beef doesn't stay a rap beef for long. Here's where we need to zoom in, because this is where the story stops being just background and starts getting real. The cracks between Skrilla and OT7 Quanny didn't appear overnight. This wasn't one incident. This was a slow separation. Loyalty being tested, sides being chosen, and the question of who really built what in Philadelphia drill being put on the table publicly. The first real public signal that something was off came in 2024 on No Jumper. Adam 22 sits down with Skrilla and asks him point blank, who created the dark sound of Philly drill, him or Quanny? It seems like a simple interview question. It is not. Because Skrilla doesn't pause, doesn't hedge, doesn't give diplomatic non-answers. He goes on a rant about OT7 Quanny. He's direct. He's frustrated. You can hear the history in his voice. This is not a man talking about someone he never cared about. This is a man talking about someone he feels moved grimy on him. Someone he feels took credit for things he helped build. And that kind of resentment, the kind rooted in feeling like your contribution got minimized by somebody you helped, that runs deep, gang. Let me break it down for you. In Philadelphia drill, the question of who created what is not just an ego thing. It is a territorial thing. It is a money thing. It is a respect thing. When you come from where these men came from, your music is your most valuable asset. Your credibility, your legacy, your meal ticket, and your protection all wrapped into one. If somebody is out here getting credit for building something you helped construct, that is a direct attack on everything you've worked for. Skrilla felt that way about Quanny, and he said it on camera. But the streets had been talking even before that interview. There were whispers about Quanny's reputation, not just with Skrilla, but with multiple people in and around the Philadelphia scene. Descriptions floating around painted Quanny as someone who could be unpredictable, erratic, somebody who moved in ways that didn't always sit right with people he was supposed to be aligned with. Chicago was hearing about it. Baltimore was hearing about it. The beef wasn't contained to Philadelphia. Quanny was apparently making enemies in multiple cities simultaneously. And this is where it gets crazy. Y'all need to hear this part clearly, because this is where the beef stops being about lyrics and interviews and becomes a matter of life and death. YBC Dole, real name Abdul Qadir Vix, born July 5, 1999, was one of the most electrifying and unhinged presences in the entire underground rap scene. This is the man who literally dug up a dead op's grave, not in a song, not as a metaphor. Physically dug up a grave, filmed it, and posted it. That earned him the nickname Mr. Disrespectful. His song McButtons and McNuggets was a chaotic, raw, evil piece of drill music that got passed around the internet like fire. The man had no fear filter, none. And here's the connection. YBC Dull and his crew, the Young Bag Chasers, they were aligned with Skrilla, against Quanny. Dole and his people were in open opposition to OT7 Quanny and the Dropaz crew. This wasn't a subtle thing. In the music video for McButtons and McNuggets, Dole prominently featured Skrilla, a former Quanny affiliate, standing right there with him. The message was unmistakable. This is what side we on. And on the final track of that project, Dole dropped a line about Quanny. essentially saying he'd go dig up Quanny's grave the same way he dug up his other ops. That is as direct as a lyrical shot gets. That is not metaphor. That is a man telling you exactly what he thinks and what he's capable of. Now here's where it gets dark, fam. August 18th, 2024, YBC Duel appears in a YouTube interview and music video with popular internet figure Brandon Buckingham. Buckingham is known for rolling through dangerous areas across the country with a camera. He'd already done a video with Skrilla that cracked 2 million views. In the Dull video, the two of them film a music video called McBuckingham. Dressed in clown costumes, carrying guns, Dull is bragging about his reputation, showing off weapons on camera, talking about the gang war in West Philly. August 22nd, 2024, one day after that video goes up, Abdul Qadir Vic's YBC Duel gets shot while driving in Olney, multiple rounds. He doesn't survive, 25 years old, gone. Buckingham finds out hours later and posts on X. Damn, rest in peace, Webigdul. Just found out he was killed a few hours ago. The song they made together, Buckingham said directly, was about the gang war in West Philly. No arrests were made. The internet went into shock. The Philly drill community fractured further. And here's where it gets even messier. Skrilla, who had been visibly aligned with Dull, was reportedly not invited to the funeral. Not invited to the funeral of a man he'd been seen standing next to publicly. Think about what that says about the internal politics swirling around these deaths and these alliances. Somebody, somewhere, made a decision to keep Skrilla away from that ceremony. That is not a small thing. After Dull's death, OT7 Quanny and Chucky, another prominent Philly figure, got into a public, heated back and forth. The internet was watching all of this play out in real time. Chucky, who was aligned with the Skrilla/YBC side of this, went on record exposing Quanny, saying Quanny was scared, saying Quanny had been throwing up the white flag while simultaneously letting things pop off on the streets. That accusation alone is nuclear in Philly street politics. Because in the culture these men navigate, there is nothing worse than being exposed as someone who talks loud but moves quiet when things get real. Let me tell you something. This beef didn't stay in Philadelphia. In late 2024, Skrilla confirms on camera, on No Jumper December 2024, that he got shot in Chicago, not Philly, Chicago. He shows the bullet wound on camera. It's graphic. This is a man who is signed to a major label, who is the hottest rapper in his city right now, showing the world that the violence around him is not contained to his zip code. He's moving through other cities and the danger is following him. Or maybe he brought it with him. Now, who shot Skrilla in Chicago? That question has not been answered publicly with certainty. But understand the context. At the time this shooting happens, Skrilla is in a cold war with OT7 Quanny. Quanny's beef network extends beyond Philadelphia. There are documented connections and tensions with Chicago, Baltimore, and other cities. Whether there is a direct line between the Quanny beef and what happened in Chicago, nobody is saying on record. But the street's been connecting those dots. And when a man from Kensington is getting shot in another state while in an active beef with someone whose drama reaches multiple cities, you do the math. What's notable is that on that same No Jumper episode, Skrilla also says he had a talk with Quanny. Let that breathe for a second. This man just got shot, just showed the wound on camera, and in the same interview is telling the world he sat down and talked with the man he's been beefing with. That is either a genuine attempt at de-escalation or it's the kind of statement a man makes in public to create distance while everything is still live in the streets. The internet had reactions. Chucky had reactions. Not everybody was buying it. Here's the real tea. You can say you talk to somebody all day long, but talk doesn't cancel the energy that's already been released. When a man is in your music videos with guns talking about digging up your rival's grave, when people in your orbit are catching bullets, when you yourself have been hit, a conversation doesn't undo all of that. The streets have memory. And in Philly, the streets have receipts. By late 2024, there were visible attempts on both sides, or at least on Skrilla's side publicly, to signal that things might be cooling down. November 2024, a video circulates with the caption, "Skrilla on squashing beef with OT7 Quanny." People online started asking the question, are they cool now? Short answer, fam, the streets didn't believe it. and Chucky made sure everybody knew why. While the peace narrative was being pushed publicly, Chucky, who had been firmly in the Skrilla Dull camp throughout this whole situation, went on record to say Quanny was the one who'd been scared, who'd been waving the white flag while simultaneously things were still going on in the background. The accusation was specific, that Quanny was trying to look like he was squashing things publicly while the people around him were still moving. Now let's be precise about what that means in street politics. There is a version of a peace attempt that is genuine, where both sides actually stand down, acknowledge what happened, and choose to move forward. And then there's a version where one party tries to publicly claim peace to protect their reputation or their safety while still having things in motion off camera. Chucky was saying loudly that what was being called a squash was the second version. Quanny, for his part, did respond. He has never been the type to go silent when he feels like he's being portrayed wrong, but the responses were measured enough that they didn't definitively clear up whether any real resolution had taken place. There are still unreleased tracks with both of their names on them floating around the internet, recorded from when they were still aligned. Those records never dropped officially, and the fact that they've become artifacts of a pre-beef era says everything you need to know about where things actually stand. What's also important to understand is that this beef didn't just affect Skrilla and Quanny individually. The entire Philly drill scene got divided. People had to choose sides. Crews that were once in the same room had to recalibrate. Producers who were working with both artists had to figure out where they stood. And the death of YBC Dull didn't just remove one voice from the scene. It hardened positions on both sides in a way that no handshake or interview can easily undo. The bigger wave that keeps crashing here is this. Skrilla is now the hottest rapper in Philadelphia, full stop. Doot 6'7" went global in ways that nobody in the Philly underground had ever seen. He went viral with UK prime ministers, with NBA players, with Gen Alpha kids who have never been anywhere near Kensington. He's on Priority Records. He's on a headlining tour. He's doing a music video with N3 on in Kensington that draws over 200 people before the police break it up. He is operating on a completely different level of visibility than he was when this beef first started cooking. And OT7 Quanny? He's still moving, still respected, still pulling serious streaming numbers, still holding down his North Philly legacy. But the asymmetry of where both men's careers sit right now adds another dimension to the tension. When one man in a beef goes from underground to national level fame, the stakes on both sides change dramatically. Let me zoom all the way out, fam, because there's a conversation that needs to happen about what this beef represents beyond just two artists from Philadelphia. What's happening between Skrilla and OT7 Quanny is a mirror. It's a mirror held up to the exact same tension that has existed in drill music since Chicago gave birth to the genre. The tension between the streets being the source of the art and the streets being the thing that destroys the artists. Skrilla is literally the most authentic product of the most documented open-air drug market in American history. His music isn't inspired by the streets. It is the streets, turned into sound. But that same authenticity, that same unbreakable connection to Kensington and the world it represents, means the violence, the beef, the danger, none of that gets left behind when you sign a major label deal. YBC Dull is dead at 25, shot the day after posting a video with a gun in his hand talking about the gang war in West Philly. That is not a coincidence. That is a cause and effect chain as direct as anything you'll ever see. And he was in that video, in that physical space at that moment, partly because of the side he had chosen in the conflict between these two crews. The Philly drill scene specifically operates in a way that blurs the line between artistic competition and real territorial conflict more than almost any other regional scene right now. These aren't just rap beefs. The music is documentation, the lyrics are evidence, the videos are filmed in the actual locations where real things happen. When YBC Dull raps about digging up graves, he isn't being hyperbolic. The man literally dug up a grave. When Skrilla talks about Kensington, he's describing the block he still lives on, still walks through, still moves through. This is not performance. This is life with a microphone on it. And that is exactly what makes the Skrilla Quanny beef so dangerous and so significant, because both of these men are extraordinarily talented. Both of them are contributing something real and raw to a music scene that the whole world is paying attention to. Skrilla's 6'7" went so viral that it reached the UK Prime Minister. Quanny's Dog Talk has millions of plays. These aren't guys who should be in mortal danger. These are guys who should be selling out shows and building generational legacies. But here's what Real recognize, Real tells you. When you build your art from a specific environment, that environment doesn't just give you material, it has claims on you. The block doesn't let you go just because you got a check with more zeros on it. And when the people around you, the people who are moving in your name or on your side of a conflict, are still in that environment every day, their decisions, their movements, their outcomes, all of that comes back to you whether you want it to or not. Chucky calling out Quanny for the white flag situation was a significant moment, because it wasn't just about who's scared and who isn't. It was an indictment of the gap between what somebody projects publicly and what's actually going on in the background. That gap, the gap between the public peace narrative and the street reality, is exactly where people get hurt. Because if both sides are operating on different understandings of whether the situation is resolved, then any encounter between affiliated people becomes a potential spark. Nobody wants to be the one who got caught slipping because they thought it was squashed. And as of right now, in May 2026, this situation has not been definitively put to rest. Skrilla is moving at a level of mainstream visibility that has never been seen from Kensington. His music is being used in TikToks by people who have never heard a gunshot outside a movie. And at the same time, the infrastructure of this beef, the alliances, the grief over YBC Dull, the unresolved questions about what really went down, all of that is still sitting in the background of every song he drops, every show he books, every city he tours through. The real question the culture needs to sit with is this: what does the hip-hop ecosystem owe to the artists it profits from who are navigating these situations? Because every time Skrilla's 6-7 played on a playlist or got quoted in a prime minister's speech, somebody was getting a cut of that, the label, the platforms, the algorithm. But the danger that surrounds the world that created that song, that doesn't get a line item. That doesn't get managed by a PR firm. That just is. And the artists absorb all of it. The Skrilla and OT7 Quanny beef is getting deadly. That's not a headline for clicks. That is a factual statement about what has already happened. A man is dead, a man has been shot, and what remains unresolved. The music coming out of this situation on both sides is extraordinary, but extraordinary music does not make anybody bulletproof. Keep it 100 with yourself when you think about this story, because the city of Philadelphia is out here producing some of the most compelling, authentic, and emotionally dense music in the entire country right now. And the cost of that authenticity is being paid in full, in blood, on streets named after Benjamin Franklin and Kensington Avenue and Olney by young men who are making something beautiful out of the hardest possible raw material. This ain't over, not even close. Drop what you think in the comments. You think this beef is actually squashed, or is it just quiet right now? And if you ain't subscribed yet, gang, what are you doing? The next breakdown is coming, and you're gonna want to be there for it.